Australians are inspired to understand their democracy.
You listen to D.I.Wireless, an Aussie punk rock podcast. Check it out, mate.
Working 28 years for the company. Will I ever be secure financially? I don't know, gonna have to wait and see.
G'day everyone, and thanks very much for tuning in to episode 35 of D.I.Wireless podcast. We've managed to cross the border from Canada and we're in Seattle. And I guess there's a bunch of different punk bands that I could have tried to chase down for an interview while in this part of the world. The Spits are from here, the Melvins are from here, hardcore heavyweights like Champion are from here, and we may have even been able to catch Dustin Kensrue in his move here to worship the Lord. But there was only one man I was ever really wanting to chase down for a chat for the show while we were here. Firstly, because his band was one of many Fat Records bands that were my introduction into punk rock. But secondly, because I was always interested in a story I read, an article I read about him, that despite being part of, the really crazy period or the fat heyday in the mid 90s to early noughties, he was more than happy to give that all up, get out of the van, set up with a family and a house and the white picket fence and a job at Microsoft of all places. I am of course talking about Dave Lake, aka Diesel Dave of the band Diesel Boy, and he joins me right now. Thanks very much for chatting to us on DI Wireless, Dave.
Thanks for remembering Diesel Boy.
It was a big part of my introduction to music, to punk rock and lots of other people as well. Mainly through I think the first introduction was the Fat compilations. But when I sat down and thought about it, you're actually on Honest Don's. It was a subsidiary of Fat Records. Did you ever wonder why you weren't considered to fit the actual Fat roster, or was that ever explained to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you that we weren't super stoked to not be on Fat Records. I mean, that was what we wanted to do, and we did a 7-inch for Fat before we did our first full length. But we recorded the songs for what became Cock Rock, our first record, and we gave the demos to Fat Mike, and he basically listened to it, and he said, I like this, but I don't like it enough to put it out on Fat. Which, was kind of harsh, but I appreciated his, sort of honesty. And we were sort of evaluating our other options and trying to figure out where we should put out the record. And we were close to signing with another label, Fearless Records. We'd been talking to them and who are still around and who we were friendly with. And we'd had a song on one of their comps. And we were thinking maybe that would be the place that we'd end up putting out our first record. And then Mike called one day and said, I don't have a name for it, but I want you guys to be the first band on this new label. Do you want to go into the studio for a week in May, at this place called Razor's Edge and do the record with Ryan Green, who we liked because, he'd made all these great records from these other bands that we liked. And we said, sure. We sort of took a leap of faith, assuming that, whatever Mike had up his sleeve or would find up his sleeve if he didn't know yet, would be interesting. And
speaking about Fat Mike, I've heard him say before, I've read where he said that 1996 to 2006 was basically the most fun time in being involved in his label. Obviously the best time for business, I think he's referred to as well. And that's pretty much the gamut that you ran as a band. You were involved pretty much all through that era that he's saying the best. It must have been a crazy time to be in a band that all of a sudden is touring and putting out records and sort of touring all over the world. What was it sort of like to be involved in the Fat roster and just in that whole scene during that time?
Well, we loved all those bands, and I think we felt like we sort of won the lottery. It was like it is not lost on us that essentially overnight we became a band that nobody had ever heard of or cared about. And, we put out a 7-inch and had a song, which you alluded to in your intro on the Survival of the Fattest compilation.
It's Titty Twister, right?
Yeah, and and that song, remains, any show we ever played. It's like if there is something to be on my epitaph, although there probably wouldn't be anything from Diesel Boy on my epitaph, but maybe
My pants are falling down is going to be on you.
Yeah, maybe.
Eat a bag of shit, you suck, I can't believe what luck you have. It's not bestowed on me, and my pants falling down. I would have another drink, except it might be poisoned by my mind, and my pants falling down. I don't know what you've been drinking, but pour another one for me. My pants are falling down. The room is spinning around. My stomach is making funny sounds. I'm falling down. I'm falling down.
I mean, that was like as close to a hit as we could have had. But it was like, it was, at that time, being on one of those labels, and it's probably still true to some extent today, but maybe not quite as much, just being signed to Fat or Epitaph or, Fearless or Helpless. There was a few of those, labels that had that kind of cachet. Just being signed sort of overnight gave us some kind of draw and some kind of built-in audience, which isn't to say that we didn't have to work at it, but, we were, that association totally helped us. And then, we did our record and Mike got us our first two tours, which were Strung Out on the Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues record. They took us out for 9 weeks, which was an epically long time. And I can't believe that we went out for our very first tour for 9 weeks. And then they subsequently brought us to Europe a few months later. And then he also got us a tour with the Vandals on, they had a Christmas record out called Oi to the World. And we did a 2-week tour with the Vandals on the West Coast. And
it was a crazy time because it seemed to me it was like there was labels like that, the ones that you've mentioned, that were just almost signing, and I'm not saying your group falls into this, but there's some other bands that they were just signing anyone who could play that sort of style or could throw 3 chords together or whatever. There was like a real flood of it back then, but everyone was doing pretty well.
I think that's right. And, I think that I don't think Diesel Boy was doing anything incredibly unique. I mean, I think to the average listener, it all kind of sounded the same, I mean, it's all kind of melodic, fast pop punk. And, so much of the music industry is about who you know and, getting lucky and being in the right place at the right time. And, we got lucky and we're in the right place at the right time. I don't think we were any better than a million other bands. We just, happened to know Fat Mike and he liked us and liked our band. And, there you have it.
Well, speaking of bands you enjoy, we're going to play some music on the show as we normally do. A current band, anyway, that you've decided to play their song. This is a band who's doing a lot of touring, in particular this year. Is a band, the Menzingers, and you're going to play the song "The Obituaries." Is it you obviously keep up to date through your work, as you said. You're involved with a lot of music writing. This is a band that you're just familiar with, and is a modern band that you sort of connect with? Yeah,
I mean, I say there's probably not a ton of, there's not a ton of modern punk rock that I like, and I sound like such an old, crusty guy saying that. I don't know, there's a whole generation of bands I just sort of don't relate to for whatever reason, and so I'm always stoked when I find a good band that to me sort of seems to have the same kind of blueprint as the bands that I liked, when I first got into punk rock. And I think the Menzingers are like that. I think they've made, like, this new record is a way improvement over their previous one. And I saw them play a few weeks ago in Seattle, and they were great. And the kids at the show knew every single word of every single song. And, that's saying something. There's something about those songs that's just sort of, I don't know, I don't know what they tapped into, but their newest record is great, and there isn't a bad song on it, and it's something every time I play it, I want to sing all the words as loud as I can, just like all those people at the show.
That's cool. Well, let's play The Obituaries by the Menzingers right now. We'll be back. We got plenty more to chat with Dave about, so we'll be back with D.I.Wireless shortly.
whatever that was left of it. 'Cause I've cursed my lonely memory with picture-perfect imagery. Maybe I'm not dying, I'm just living in decaying cities. But I'm still healthy, I'm still fine. I've been spending all my time reading the obituaries. But I will fuck this up. I fucking know it. I will fuck this up. I fucking know it. But I will fuck this up. I fucking know it. I will fuck this up. I fucking know it. Cause I am the shadow of the waxwing slave. I felt the force of joy from window panes. I am just freaking out, yeah, I'll be fine. But I will fuck this up. I fucking know it. I will fuck this up. I fucking know it. I will fuck this up. I fucking know it. I will fuck this up. I fucking know it.
That was the Menzingers with the obituaries, selected by Dave Lake, aka Diesel Dave, and we're still chatting to the man right now. Dave, I mentioned earlier that it was an article. I can't remember the magazine, but there was an article you'd either written or you'd been interviewed in where you'd made the comment that you'd done all the touring, you'd released records, you'd toured the world, but there was a point that you got to where you were like, I want to have some sort of other skills other than, playing a guitar and being able to survive in a van kind of thing. The reason I think I found that so interesting is so many people I talk to on this show is because they're still active in touring bands. They're all about, I never want to leave this life. This is all I know. I don't know how to do anything else. Did you ever think that you aren't making the right decision? You should just keep going on this ride while you could?
Well, I guess I thought that, you sort of summed it up correctly. I felt like being in a band on tour is sort of like sustained adolescence. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous life. You live in a van, you live on the road, you sleep in, weird places. People don't treat you normal. They give you free drugs. They ask you for your autograph. It's just not normal. It's a weird existence. And it's easy to get caught up in there, and it can be beautiful. But I think you can also get lost in there. But I just feared that, if I didn't figure out how to do something else, that I would be forced to go on tour whether I wanted to or not, because it'd be the only thing that I would know how to do. And, I have friends who are still on the road and who definitely fall into that, who fit that description. And I've talked to them at length about those same things. And, I think that, I wouldn't say that, I have regrets or that they have regrets. It just is a different situation. But I know that there are a lot of people my age, I'm almost 40, and, people who are in that sort of age bracket. As you get older, even if you're in a band, a lot of them ended up getting married and having kids, and the only way they can pay their mortgage is to go on tour with their band. And that's not very conducive to family life. You have to be gone while you're making money. And I think it just sort of depends how you're wired. I know that my opinion in my band was not shared by everybody, and I struggled with the guilt of knowing that, I'm somehow changing the fate of other people's lives also by wanting to kind of wind down. But, I wasn't happy living in a van and not having normal relationships and not having, there is no normalcy. It's like you have to make the money comes from weird places and you have to stretch it out, and there's no stability. I just like being at home. I'm a sort of homebody, and not everybody's like that. Some people like being on the road. And as much as I did enjoy playing, the being on the road part, I always just kind of found a drag. And it certainly, my desire to have a sort of more stable life was one of the factors, but not the only one.
I'm really interested in your comment that you just made about there's a lot of bands that through that busy time that you had on the Fat roster, the Epitaph roster, all those associated labels who are still playing. Sometimes you'll watch a band and you'll think, are these guys really enjoying it as much as they used to, kind of thing?
I mean, I think that's right. I think you see that influence in some way in this, in this rash of sort of pop punk singers making acoustic solo records. There's been a lot of guys from a lot of my era, punk rock bands who have, made solo records and have spent more time touring as a solo unit. And, it's a little easier to do it with one person than with five people. And
so the conversations you had with these guys were like, they wanted to be home with their families, but they just couldn't because they had to go out, and that's how they paid the bills for so long. That's how they had to get away from their families to keep going.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know that it's a regret thing as much that, they have no choice. It just is what their life is, like Tony from No Use for Name, I've had this conversation with before, and, that's for better or worse. It's not like, he's complaining about it necessarily, but, a lot of people struggle with, this being their occupation, and and what do you do? I mean, this may not go on forever, and I think it gets harder and harder to find other things to do the older you get, but you have to give up so much in order to be in a band full time and to go on tour. You forego essentially everything for as long as you can. Yeah. Like I said, it's, it sort of extends adolescence, and, a lot of people extend it a long time, but those two worlds just don't, easily mesh. So it's a challenge. I think that, maybe it's a new challenge. A lot of people may not have had to deal with this. I know all those people love playing music or they wouldn't do it. So, I think it's just a double-edged sword.
I don't think Tony's going to be going to work in a bank anytime soon, put it that way. Let's play some more music, Dave. The next one you're going to play from a gentleman who was, again, involved in the Fat family in band in its early existence. Some of my favourite records were done when he was in the band. It's John K. Samson. But you're going to play one of his own songs, though.
Yeah, I'm a huge Weaker Thans fan. They're one of my favourite bands. I just find his lyrics to be particularly thoughtful and interesting, and I think he sort of taps into something that very few. He's very literate, and there's something very Canadian about it. It's just I don't know what that means. I don't really know what that means. But I don't know. I mean, I just find him to be thoughtful, both as a person and as an artist, and I think he takes what he does seriously. And there hasn't been something that the Weaker Thans have put out that I haven't liked, and I was just as impressed with his solo record, which was, slightly more subdued maybe, and I think he maybe explored some things that he couldn't. And the song that I've picked is maybe the most Weaker Thans sounding song. It's one of the punker songs on the record, but I can't say enough good things about the Weaker Thans or John K. Samson. I love everything he does.
And this is him right now with When I Write My Master's Thesis here on D.I.Wireless. More to chat with Diesel Dave when we come back. Keep listening.
Oh, the streets, Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, filled with smoke. The doorbell rings. I put my controller down and pick it up, shoot some things. Later, the darkness hits reboot, and the loneliness increases. She said she'd come back home when I write my master's thesis. Oh, the hours I spent in the archives wearing cotton gloves, shuffling test. They'll be there to say that I don't need to take their stupid test. Greet me with banners and balloons, and my hard drive smashed to pieces. Nothing left for me to save when I write my master's thesis. It's all gonna change when I write my master's thesis.
That was John K. Samson with When I Write My Master's Thesis. You are or have got back together with some of the key members of Diesel Boy to write some more music, that's correct?
I'm not sure getting together is correct, although we did a few months ago. We were sort of talking on email and we thought it would be fun to play. So I flew down to San Francisco and we spent the weekend, in a garage playing our old songs for nobody's benefit except our own. And, it was a blast just to sort of see those guys and get super stoned and play our songs. And, it was a blast. It was really fun. And, I think something that we all had been wanting to do for a long time. And, I think I was a little bit inspired by the experience of getting back together with those guys. But really I just, I miss the process of playing music, which is something that I've done, on and off in various ways, but nothing that's been super serious. So a few months ago, I sort of sat down with the intent of actually trying to write something, and so I've been doing that, and it's been fun, and it's something that I've just sort of missed having in my life in a serious way. I don't know what'll come of it. It has been challenging to. Not all live in the same city. So, whether it'll become a Diesel Boy record, whether it'll ever come out, whether it'll become a solo record, I have no idea. I've been writing it sort of with the intent of making it a Diesel Boy record, but like I said, I would say they're like first drafts. They're fully formed, they all the words are there and they all have, all the parts are together, but, the thing that Diesel Boy, was always, the way that we always kind of worked is, I would say 95% of the songs and the structures were written by me, but then we'd bring them in and we would sort of all work on them together and arrange them, and they're just not as interesting as they can be when they sort of come from me. So I'm good at getting the skeleton there and the melodies and the chords, but really the sort of the sort of more subtle things, how they start and stop and, all the hooks and putting it all together. I think you really need a band to do that, or at least I always did,
We just chatted to another reforming band just recently, a band called Somerset from New Zealand, and I was talking to their lead singer, and he said that if they put out a record now, it would sound completely different because it had been so long. Do you think yours would be the same, or is it, if it happened, would it kind of be along the same lines?
To make it a Diesel Boy record, I wouldn't really want to. We were never the kind of band that, tried to challenge our audience or,
push musical boundaries.
Yeah, people sort of expect, there's going to be some humorous songs, it's going to be, sort of fast and melodic, and I think that's what. I wouldn't want to put another name on it if it sounded like that, nor would I want to put out a Diesel Boy record that didn't sound like that. That's just not that I very much respect bands that challenge their audiences and do different things. Though there aren't a lot of punk rock bands like that probably, but Diesel Boy was never like that. And so I think if we do end up putting out another record, I would hope that it would not be too much of a leap of faith from where we were previously.
And have you thought about, and together, if you did happen to play a show or short tour or anything like that, how you sort of walk that fine line of absolutely getting to maybe nostalgia purposes, but not making it lame, not trying to relive past glories. Has that thought ever gone through your head?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of the reason why we haven't done it, and why we wanted to, make a record. And nothing against bands that do that. It's, in a way, the same could almost be if time elapsed. It's, what's the real reason? But, we all miss playing together and the fun that we had. And I can assure you that we will never say never, but I'm fairly certain that, we will never be up and play festivals or do, a few weekends here and there, as we wanted to, and be able to sort of explore opportunities without feeling like we were just sort of doing it to make money or because it was, a nostalgia fest. Although I realize that people aren't going to give a shit about the new songs anyway. All they're going to want to hear is Titty Twister. So who are we fooling? But
don't say that.
It makes us feel better,
We'll move on, Dave. Let's play another song. This one, I'll have to say I've got no experience with this band, so you'll have to give us a quick background on this. Is Father John Misty?
Yeah, Father John Misty. I do some music writing, and so I have the luxury of hearing a lot of records. And Father John Misty was a guy who was the drummer in the Fleet Foxes. His name's Josh Tillman, and he sort of reinvented himself in this Father John Misty persona. He's from Seattle. Sub Pop put it out. They're from Seattle, so there's definitely a Seattle connection. But it's just sort of a great sort of pop record, that sort of spans genres. There's a lot of kind of Beatles influenced stuff on there. It's just, I think it's very brave. You don't see a lot of drummers sort of coming, from behind the drum kit to being this kind of fully formed kind of persona. And he did that, which is impressive. And I think it's an interesting record. And I don't know, I wanted to try and pick something that wasn't so predictably punk rock. And, I've been listening to that a lot. So there you have it.
We love the mix of when people choose things on the show. So this is The Only Son of a Ladies' Man from Father John Misty.
When I heard the ladies' man was dead, I saw the Rolling Stones stop moving. Saw my ancient hero on the Sunset Strip. He left behind a legacy of ruin. Now painted ladies wanna hold my gun. Wonder if the whole time I've been acting. When I sang Moon River in that silent film, had I really made a sound when they called action? I swear that man was womankind's first husband. They all died in a line to save him. I'm a steady hand, I'm a Dodgers fan, I'm a leading brand, I'm a one-night stand, I'm a ladies' man. Couldn't see his used up body at the funeral by virtue of the flailing of his conquests. They tied down his casket with the garter belt. Each troubled heart was beating in a sequin dress. Someone must console these lonesome daughters. No written word or ballad will appease them. The cowboy and the cop shot down the ladies' man. The humid nights in LA are now silent. I swear that man was womankind's first husband.
That was Father John Misty and the only son of the ladies' man. Dave, we thank you very, very much for taking time. I know you're a busy guy with your regular day job and everything around that, so we really do appreciate you taking the time to hang out. And thank you for everything that Diesel Boy did during that period as well. It was a definitely sort of I'm still involved as much as I can be in music right now, and you know your band was one of the bands that originally sort of started that. I'm sure I'm speaking for the same for a bunch of people back home and around the world that are the same thing.
Well, thanks. I'm just happy that that people remember us fondly. It makes me happy. I was reading something the other day on the web, and some kid had posted something. This was on Reddit. There's a punk subsection of Reddit, and some kid from some European country was like, "I'm just getting into punk, and can somebody explain to me like what the rules are and what you're supposed to do?" And that somebody had a very thoughtful response. And the thing that stuck with me that I thought was really right on was that he said, it's not about how you dress or what you look like and what kind of band you like. It's about giving something back. So maybe you should join a band or take pictures or start a fanzine or do a podcast or whatever it is. Just be an active member of that community. And to me, that's what I always got from punk rock. And if my band in some way inspired other kids to get involved and do something creative and do something good for the betterment of a scene or the community, then that's the goal, and to and to make people happy and to have made them forget about their day for a half an hour is good too. But thank you for saying that, and I'm just glad people remember.
Let's play one of your songs to go out. I'm tempted to not play Titty Twister because we've talked about it too much. So I think, is there anything else that, seriously, a song that stands out that in all your records that you were really, really proud of?
There are certainly moments of each of them that I'm proud of. Our first records are always weird because they're like, you never intend for them to be songs that the whole world is going to hear. They're just these dumb songs that you write to play at shows or just to have or whatever, and then they end up going on a record, and it's like, I never ever thought that, thousands of people would be listening to Titty Twister and those dumb lyrics that I didn't give any thought to, which maybe is part of the beauty of it. But
yeah, probably.
Our last record, Rode Hard and Put Away Wet, is probably my favorite. I think it was the sort of had the most kind of growth, and we were doing sort of more interesting things. And Big Sparkling New is a song on that. It's sort of the first song. There's a little short, kind of dumb one that comes right before it. But I don't know. There's something I like the changes. I like the melody. I think it's interesting. And I'm definitely proud of that record, and particularly that song.
Relive it if it was part of your past, or if it's the first time listening to it. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers.
Here I am all alone again, with the TV glow and the sound of the trains rumbling. And after pushing those